right, everyone. I think we can go ahead and get started. Good afternoon, everybody. I hope everyone's doing well and staying healthy and safe. Thank you all very much for joining us this afternoon for our Pandemic Pedagogy Faculty Discussion Panel. My name is Kelly Smith. I'm the director of the Center for Faculty Excellence, and I'm also an assistant professor of communication. I'd like to thank Provost Phillips and her office and the Division of Academic Affairs for co-sponsoring this discussion and for providing this very important opportunity for faculty to build community and also share ideas about teaching in person this fall. So today's conversation is the first installment of an ongoing series that the CFE will offer during the fall to help support faculty in this new and changing environment. We plan to host at least one discussion panel a month so we can continue to share ideas about teaching. Understandably, there are many questions that we have about what our classrooms are going to look like in the fall and what we should do as instructors to keep our students and ourselves and each other safe. So we have several faculty colleagues here today who are going to share some insights from their spring and summer teaching experiences. I'd like to welcome Burnett from University College, Heather DeGrande from College of Nursing and Health Sciences, Chelsie Hawkinson from University College, Cherie McCollough from College of Science and Engineering, Nancy Miller from College of Liberal Arts, Ethan Thompson, College of Liberal Arts, and Corinne Valadez from College of Education and Human Development. Thank you all for being with us and sharing your time and experiences with us today. Thank you. So our colleagues will speak to us for about 5 to 7 minutes each, and then we'll open it up to questions for our panelists and about their experiences. If you have questions for our panelists, please type them in the comments section, and then we'll go over them and try to obviously answer as many as we possibly can. And then after that question and answer session, Provost Phillips will then present some very important logistical information regarding classroom spacing, seating, space coverings, faculty modeling behavior, and best practices for entering and exiting the classroom. And I think for many of you who have submitted questions, hold on, for many of you who had submitted questions in the reservation form, I think Provost Phillips will answer many of the questions that you had during her presentation. So again, thank you all very much for being here today. Without further ado, I will turn it over to Jimena to get us started with our faculty discussion. And Jimena, I have you muted, so you may need to unmute yourself. Okay. Well, why don't we move over to Heather? I think Jimena is having some audio problems. Heather, would you like to start us off?
Sure. Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I am Heather DeGrande, and I teach in the College of Nursing and Health Sciences. I teach across programs. So I teach in the undergraduate and graduate programs, and I teach across platforms now. Those of you that know me really well know that I'm kind of really good, not really good, but I teach online mostly, okay? But last semester, in the fall and spring, I taught a blended course, which got forced to get put online because of COVID-19, of course, as everybody's were. And we managed to do that. It was a little difficult to do that, actually, because we did a lot. Our course was a flipped classroom approach. So it was a little difficult to do the online transition, really, actually, because we were doing a lot of group work in the classroom, a lot of discussion happening in the classroom, and that was really fantastic. So going into this, coming into the fall, with having to teach on campus, I did have a couple experiences this summer where I had to bring students on campus. I did have permission to do that. I gave an exam in one of our computer labs here in the College of Nursing and Health Sciences. We actually, I and my colleague who's here, Professor McCollough, helped me. The room was not set up yet. So we actually moved there So where there were 6 back and forth between the students, they wore their masks. We had hand sanitizer. We took their temperatures. We did all of the contact tracing things per the CDC. And I would say it was a successful, safe venue for our students. Nobody got COVID or anything like that, and it worked out well. My other colleague, Dr. Fomenko, has been bringing students to campus as well to do skills with this first cohort of accelerated BSN students. Granted, the classes are smaller in size, so it's a little easier to do than the larger class size. But they did their skills, they social distance, and it was successful, safe for students. In the fall, I'm going to be working again with Professor McCollough to teach the same cohort, and our plan is, she's really teaching it, but we're going to work together because that's how we roll. But our plan is to have half the students on campus and half the students virtually, which looks like Distance Ed is going to be pushing out some information about that very shortly, where they're going to have iPad option in the classroom where you can have that virtual experience that actually Dr. Michael's been doing all summer. And we actually do that with our distance students in our E-line program for the nursing program for their skills. So that's going to be pushed out come today or tomorrow, I think, about how you can do that, where you can have the students come into your classroom from a distance and be able to teach. So our plan again is to do a flipped classroom where the lectures, our materials are online, and then the work is going to happen in the classroom, and they will have to be socially distanced, of course, but I mean physically distanced. I hate the word social distancing, I really do, because we're not socially distanced. Here we are physically distanced. Okay, so there's no reason for that. So I don't know if I went over 5 minutes. If I did, I can't believe it, because I didn't know that I would have that much to say. So thank you, and I'm happy to be a part of this. So thanks for including me.
Heather, thank you. I think you were only at 3, so you still had plenty of time. You can keep going if you'd like. And Shameen, how are you doing? Are you, let's see. See, maybe we want to move on to Chelsie. Would you like to go ahead? And here, let me make you present, because I think you wanted to share.
All right. Hi, everybody. My name is Chelsie Hawkinson. I'm the first year seminar coordinator. So face-to-face class in the fall. Unfortunately, I haven't had any experiences teaching face-to-face right now. So the advice and feedback I'm going to offer you is about tools that I've learned about this summer. I had a unique opportunity to work with our summer bridge program. And so it was much like a learning community where we had 27 students, 7 peer mentors, 2 faculty members. And so we utilized a program called Microsoft Teams. I want to preface this by saying that I met with IT, and I am allowed to talk about Microsoft Teams, but I want to make clear the difference between what faculty should use Teams for and what we shouldn't use Teams for. And so I'm going to go ahead and share my screen just so you can get kind of an idea of the tool that I'm talking about. And so if you're familiar with, you know, like a Facebook group or GroupMe, let's see. Go. So this is just sort of a chat feature that we can use to communicate with each other. And then I want to show you a little bit how I used it to communicate with people who were in the program this summer, including students, mentors, and then faculty too. So it's basically, this is the desktop version. There's also a version in your desktop, and it's sponsored by Microsoft Office, so Microsoft 365. That means that every faculty member has access to this program, and all students should be registered within the program since each student has access to the Microsoft products. So there's a feature in here called Teams. And so this is kind of like a supplement kind of for a classroom. We're using a lot this feature for the administrative side of things, working together in the Learning Communities program. We've got a lot of teams in there that we want to, you know, organize. So it's great to use the Teams for that sort of thing. But I've just been using the chat function for communicating with students. And so what I did, you create a chat by clicking this option up here. And so I added all of the students in the group to the chat, as well as the peer mentors and the faculty members. And so you can kind of see just the ease that students have to communicate with one another. They got kicked out of, the online session. We're able to quickly say, hey, I got kicked out, not a problem. There's jokes that are being made. There are questions, more links to other meetings. Students are making plans on their own to communicate with one another. If you see here, it's not available right now, but you can get on a video chat just with this chat group, an audio call, and then also share your screen, even if you're not on a call. And so it's been really cool to communicate with students using this. They still communicate with me through email, but when they have a quick question, it's easy to answer their questions quickly this way. And you might be excited to know that you can set it so that it doesn't bother you before like 9 a.m. and after 5 p.m. And also you can turn it off so no notifications bother you through the weekend, and kind of just let your students know when you'll be available through it. We've also used it with the peer mentor team to keep on track about what we're doing in the class. And so you'll notice at the top, you can stick files up here. And so one of the things that we're doing as part of the bridge is asking students to attend additional events, virtual events. And so all the mentors have access to quickly click this link that takes them to a file in OneDrive. And so we're easily able to kind of keep track of the different opportunities that students are attending, and all mentors and faculty members have access to mess with this here through Teams. One of the most exciting things I did with Teams this summer is that I started chat groups for smaller groups. They were taking a math class. And so I required them one weekend that they had to meet for at least 30 minutes. I was able to see that they met here for an hour and 17 minutes. I asked them to do a summary of what they met about, who was there. And then the really cool thing is that students after this week started meeting on their own. They really learned how to use this tool and were collaborating with each other very naturally. So, and then even students can reach out individually. So I've met with students this way. And it's really easy to get on a quick call through here. And then finally, we have the whole big group chat, and I love to talk about eating plant-based. And so I thought about sending a really cool meme about plant-based. So I was like, let me spare them. I know not everybody wants to hear about this, So I asked them who would like to be included in this, special chat, and I'll share recipes and different, photos about that. And so a little, group to promote kind of my personality, which gives students an opportunity to get to know me a little bit better. So this has been a game changer. I'm super excited about this to use in the face-to-face setting, because this will engage students even more outside of the classroom in the ways we want them to be engaged, but they just haven't had the tools to get them together. I'll just quickly, am I okay to talk about the other program? Okay, so the other one that I discovered is called Microsoft Bookings. And so this is a program, again, I really feel like I should get some money from Microsoft for talking about all their products and celebrating the products. But so you set up kind of, and I want to preface this too, this is about office hours. And so my plan for the fall semester is to have virtual office hours. And I don't know if you had this experience in the spring, but my students weren't coming to my office hours. It's like, here I am on WebEx from 2 to 3 p.m. Nobody would show up. And so I really thought, coming up with a way to brand your office hours when I would do kind of like a tutorial. We're going to work on schedule building today. Students were much more likely to come if I had an intentional purpose for them to come outside of class. Even things like, let's talk today about stress, and I'm going to help you think about this topic, but not everybody in the class wants to talk about stress. So that's something I can pull outside and utilize my office hours for. But then moving on to bookings, I discovered that they can make appointments through Microsoft Bookings, and you can block your calendar in a certain way. And then the students just see when you're free. And the Summer Institute was the Summer Bridge program, and it's kind of like you're setting up a business. And so on my Blackboard shell, I have a link here to book an appointment with me. And they'll click on it. Really great internet over here. So sorry for the delay. But what's going to come up, let's see here it comes. So then the students have this option here to click, they want a 15-minute appointment, a 30-minute appointment, and it shows them based on my schedule, the different, and I can shorten the amount of time that's available for them to choose from, but it gives them a little bit more time and then intentionality for an office hour appointment. And again, I plan on offering one that says face-to-face if a student needs to meet with me face-to-face for some reason. So, but otherwise making it very clear that this is virtual, and then if there's that real need for that face-to-face appointment, that I can do this. Yeah, so just things that I learned about online, used in the online setting, but I'm definitely going to continue using throughout the year in whatever format. So let me stop sharing and give the power back. I don't think I remember how to give the power back. Can you steal the power back, Kelly?
I think what you can do is go up to my name and right click on it and then just go to make me presenter.
So yeah, so happy to answer any questions that you have about those things to my ability. I'm just a user, not an expert, but I'm happy to share. I'll work on that, Kelly, giving you the
that's
your power back.
Thank you. Chelsie, thank you very much. Cherie, would you like to speak a little bit about your experiences throughout the spring and summer?
I'd be happy to. My name's Cherie McCollough. I'm department chair in Life Sciences, College of Science and Engineering. And I've been teaching close to 30 years. And in that time, never taught an online course ever. So when spring rolled around and we were asked to teach online, for me, it was a major leap of faith to teach science online. I've always been very much against teaching science online, but there was just no choice. So I learned a lot of lessons in the brief period of time through spring, and I was really glad to have learned those lessons, but the real lessons came during the summer session where I taught a 3-hour a day, Monday through Thursday, online science class to future elementary and middle school teachers. And I'll share a little bit about what I learned about this experience, which was a ton, but I'm just going to cut to the chase and tell you that I'm a fan of online now and plan on doing more of it in the future. So some of the important lessons that I've learned is, number one, to remember the context in which we're teaching. These students are so apprehensive and anxious. Internally, they don't know what to expect. They're kind of like I was at the time when I first took over online teaching in spring. They don't know how they're going to accomplish this. They're worried about their technology. They're worried about how they're going to get everything into an online format. And so this anxiousness can't be dismissed. We have to walk in and leave our professor robes at the door and come in as a friend and a colleague rather than the teacher. The minute that I assumed this role, we started to build community within our classroom, which I always thought was impossible to do in an online format, but it can be done. I used Zoom, and the reason that I used Zoom was because I found at first a lot less clunky than WebEx and Teams, but mostly because I was able to put students in Zoom groups and in Zoom rooms. They liked Zoom as well, so I thought, well, let's give this a try, and it worked very well. So you need to be approachable. And secondly, you have to be organized. You need to give the students a plan for the whole semester. Day to day is not going to work. That's just going to increase their anxiousness. So if you can build a schedule that starts with the first day of class and ends with the final exam, and let them know what they're going to be doing every day when they sign on or sign in. If you're teaching asynchronously, I taught my class synchronously because I wanted to have them in certain blocks with me during the day. The more organized you are, the less apprehension they're going to have. So not only did I present them with a plan for the semester, I built files for each class. So there was a file for each date. And inside, this was on Blackboard, inside of that file were the assignments for that day, the PowerPoint that I was going to be talking about, the group discussions or work that they were going to be doing and the assignments that they were going to be given. I did not open those files to them until the day before class because I didn't want, as many students do, anybody jumping ahead and trying to finish the course when we're only a month in. And that worked well because I felt like I had some control over how my curriculum was being parsed out. So each class was given a folder, and inside of that folder, along with the class and the expectations for the class, were rubrics that were necessary for the assignments. Students need to know what you want them to do. And so by giving them rubrics that shows how they can get the point values that they want, they're basically given a roadmap for each assignment. I know this sounds like a lot of work, and it is, but the bottom line is you can copy this class and paste it into your next class and use it again and again. There's a really nice website called Rubistar, R-U-B-I-S-T-A-R, that can help you build rubrics in about 5 minutes, and it'll store them for you in the future. It builds presentation rubrics, it builds reflection rubrics, it builds all kinds of rubrics. You can edit the point values, you can edit how they're described, etc. It's very, very friendly, and my favorite 4-letter word, it's free. So you can have that at your disposal, and I totally recommend it. Another lesson that I learned was not to expect to be perfect. We all, in this stage of our careers, have high expectations for ourselves and high expectations for our students. But we want to make sure that our students understand that we will deal with imperfections as they come along, so that when we are imperfect, they will forgive us for these imperfections. I had one day in my Zoom class, when everybody was online, I pushed the wrong button and kicked the whole class out. Everybody disappeared. And sure enough, within 10 minutes, everybody had logged back on. I asked my students, what did I do wrong? They told me, and very kindly, and we all learned together. We all learned together, and we all built a team together. So the way that I blocked my classes were, the first part of the class was where I gave them their lecture, basically, with discussion. The second part of the class was when they were put into Zoom groups, and they were given assignments that, of course, were totally tied back to the discussion and the lecture that we had. The third part was just an online, everybody on the computer at the same time discussion, and it worked really well. I invited students to stay online afterwards if they had questions or concerns, and many did that. And that way I alleviated some of the need for office hours, although I'm not saying that everybody should. But this way, students' questions and concerns were immediately answered without having to wait for an email or an office hour. So that was very helpful as well. Managing expectations is important not only for your students, but for you. You're going to mess up. You're going to screw up. Laugh it off, consider it a lesson, and move on. Always have a plan B, because plan A doesn't always work. And having taught in K-12, sometimes you have to go from B to C to D before you get it right. But it's okay, as long as you're transparent with your students and let them know what you're doing and where you're going and why you're doing it this way. And hey, do you guys have any suggestions for how we can do it better? That way you're getting them, you're empowering them to be part of the class as well. So building that community is very, very important. I'm almost finished, but I want to tell you something else that I learned. That's a lesson that I did not like to learn, but it's part of who we are and what we're doing right now. And that involves problems with technology. There were many times in my class and in my faculty's classes over the summer where technology was the crutch by which students could get out of doing assignments or failing exams. So how do we deal with this? Of course, one way that you can do this is on their exams. You can have Examity or other software put in place to make sure they're not cheating, but it costs money, and that money comes out of our students' pockets. And I don't like doing that. You may be okay with that. That's everybody's own prerogative. What I found out today from one of my faculty was that they had several students who were saying that they tried to upload their test or they tried to upload their laboratory, or they tried to upload their homework and they couldn't upload it. And of course, they were told this the day before the last class day. So what do we as professors do as we're trying to still be approachable? We're still trying to understand the context, but we just can't let students not take the exams and do the assignments that they have been given. So this professor, Dr. Greg Buck, shared with me 2 syllabus disclaimers that he's going to be putting on the syllabus that goes to his students. One says, quote, please contact the TA or lecture instructor if there are problems with submitting assignments at the due date because of computer hardware, software, Wi-Fi, or other issues, unquote. The second statement that he provided that I've given to all my faculty says the following, quote, even if your computer, hard drive, or printer crashes, this circumstance is not acceptable as an excuse for submitting tardy lab manuscripts or other assignments, end quote. So this puts the onus of turning in the assignments back on the student. And I'd be happy to send Kelly a copy of this so you can put it in our folder that I know that we've set aside. The last thing I'll say is this, and it's probably the most important lesson that I learned all summer. Don't forget what kind of potential that you have out there, because you never know. I had a student who asked to stay after class tell me that her parents were so upset with her because she switched her major from being a doctor to being a teacher, that they didn't understand why she wanted to be a teacher, and that she didn't know if she was going to be able to finance her future teacher education endeavors. We had a long talk about this. She came back the following week and asked me to write she's a very good student, by the way, asked me to write a recommendation to become a McNair Scholar. I wrote her a recommendation. She was accepted into the McNair program. This student is going to be an awesome teacher. She was just one of 24, and had I not spent a little bit of time with her after class, I never would have known the potential that she has. So don't forget, there's a lot of potential out there. And if we can just get past our angst and our trepidation and fear of the unknown, we can really be good instructors, and these kids deserve really great instruction. That's all I have to say. Let me know if you have any questions.
Cherie, thank you so much.
You're
And
welcome.
the folder that Cherie was referring to, the CFE is putting together a OneDrive shared folder and repository for all of us to share ideas, and we'll be building that. We're in the process of building it now, and we'll send out a link very shortly. So thank you again. All right, Nancy, would you like to share your experiences from the spring and the summer, please?
Can you hear me? Okay. So I'm Nancy Miller. I'm program coordinator, assistant professor, graphic design. I actually did not teach summer courses. I'll tell you, graphic design, we are planning for mixed instruction in the fall. Our courses cap at 20, and the format is a studio format. So studio formats, we do 2 sessions per week, 2 hours, 50 minutes per session. Our discipline, graphic design, is largely technical, so we will be utilizing our dedicated computer lab for our in-person instruction. So we use Mac computers as our hardware. Our software is Creative Cloud applications. Those are our industry standard applications. And so when we're working in fall, we're going to be using our dedicated lab and our neighboring space, which is our think tank, to spread our students out. So if we have 20 students in a class, we'll be spreading them out 10 and 10 in that space. We will be using our in-person time to really focus on physical making demonstration, one-on-one feedback with the students, group discussion, and group critique. So we're trying to really kind of use our in-person time to build kind of a sense of community among our students, really offer support for them in their coursework, and kind of really make it more of a, as much as we can, a community building opportunity for us. We will be using our online day to work on more of our asynchronous learning. So we'll be doing all of our lectures will largely be pre-recorded so that we are not maybe alienating a student that is unable to attend for whatever reason. So the student will be watching those on their own time on the online days, and they'll also be logging on for individual critique with their instructor. And we're going to try to really capture anything that we do in the classroom for the benefit of students that are unable to attend. So for example, if I'm doing a demo, one of the courses I teach is packaging. So packaging is a very three-dimensional design discipline. It requires the use of our printers, our making tools. It requires a lot of demonstration on my part on how to create structures, folds, die lines, things like that. So I'll be asking a student to record those demonstrations, those physical making demonstrations, and post those on Blackboard after the class for access for all students, those that were able to attend in person and maybe students that are unable to attend due to whatever reason. So really, we're just really getting, I guess, extremely organized with our courses for fall. I love what Cherie said about organization kind of deters a little bit of the anxiety for students, and I think that is very, very accurate. Given the times, I think that the more that we can make students kind of feel like that we are as prepared as possible, the better their experience is going to be. And like I said, I think it's really just comes down to, for us, that division of what are the things that we can, cover, pre-record, and what are the things that are really going to make that student experience more impactful in person. So that's where we're really going to focus on, like I said, group discussion, physical demonstrations, things that are not necessarily as conducive to online. So that's our initial plan as far as fall 2020.
Great. Thank you, Nancy. Thank you very much. Ethan, would you like to share your insights and experiences?
Okay, am I there? Can you hear me? Okay. Okay, yeah, thanks. So my name is Ethan Thompson. I teach in the Department of Communication and Media. And I've been teaching courses in media criticism here for 18 years now, and online courses for 6 years. And so my classes are generally about looking at, talking about, writing about media, and then looking at what we've written and talking about that also. So my classes are, like a lot of people, I guess, a combination of me lecturing in an interactive manner to incorporate discussion, and then also dedicated discussion in class and in smaller groups. So as I said, I've done this stuff online and face-to-face, obviously, for a long time, and I feel pretty comfortable with what I can do strictly online and what I can do face-to-face. And like a lot of people, I start getting anxiety, not knowing which one of those things I'm really going to be doing. And I know that I think, looking at the different questions that people have, like the big question that a lot of us have is, well, what are we going to do when the thing happens that we all know is going to happen and we go to online completely? And what I've really seized upon for myself and also for my students, both in terms of guiding my own pedagogy, as well as what I plan to say to my students on the first day of class when I revamp my first day talk, is that what we really need to think about is this distinction that Nancy just mentioned, synchronous versus asynchronous. All classes have synchronous components and asynchronous components. And the synchronous components are what is really the icing on the cake for us. And as long as we're able to have face-to-face meetings. Right now, I'm scheduled to have one class that's supposed to be completely face-to-face and another that's a hybrid, face-to-face and online. As long as we can do that, then the face-to-face will be the synchronous component. And if we're not, then that synchronous component will take place online. So what this means for me in terms of pedagogy is, well, recognizing that the truth of the matter is, no matter what happens with COVID, there is at the very least going to be a student who should not come to my class during the semester. There's probably going to be a number of them, and they need to be able to get my content and to participate. So I'm taking this opportunity to finally flip my classes as much as possible. And this means that in one class, I'll be meeting twice a week normally. In the other class, it'll be split in two, and half the class gets to meet one day, the other half the other. And those days are just going to be about discussion, working together to talk about things. And all my lectures are going to be short, 10-minute or less videos that I make and I upload to YouTube and I post on Blackboard. And every week there will be quizzes on that material to make sure people are actually watching those things. So I've got to do the work of making those lectures and making them available. I got to do the work of making the quizzes. And then there will also be online forums, which I've always used in my online courses, but which I'll be using now for those students who can't come to class to participate in. And those students that are in class will have participation face-to-face, or if they can't come to class, then they will simply do that online. So again, for me, just thinking about all classes have asynchronous materials and components. And in fact, for the students, that is a real benefit. And in these times where we're all challenged and our students are especially challenged, it's difficult to make synchronous classes online and to get everyone to agree that they can be together at the same time. Since we are having this start, where nominally at least, we are not just online, I think it's a great opportunity to really stress that from here on out, there will be a synchronous part of this class. And if we're lucky, we'll be here and we can be face-to-face. And my class is going to be outside. It's August, it'll be hot. I don't care where, we're going to be outside. And those people that can't be there will be able to participate online. So personally, I'm listening closely to what Chelsie and others say about conducting synchronous activities through the online component. I have a lot to learn on that side of things. But I know with my students during the spring, when we shifted to the online format, a lot of them just expressed sadness that we weren't able to get together as a class and talk to each other. And so it's really important for me to talk to them about how that doesn't have to happen strictly face-to-face, and we can have that. And I think overall, we just have to be prepared moving forward that we are always going to have to be able to have content online. We're always going to have to be able to have discussion and synchronous activity online as well. So I'll stop there.
Ethan, thank you very much. Corinne, would you like to share?
Hi, my name is Corinne Valadez, and I teach in the College of Education and Human Development in Curriculum, Instruction, and Learning Sciences. And I have taught online at the graduate level for quite a few years now. And so in the spring, I felt prepared. One class was online. I was like, not a problem. The other one was hybrid, very easy to bring that completely online. And thought, it's going to be fine. During the summer, the one undergraduate course that I teach is reading, diagnosis, and assessment. And that is taught in a clinical type setting where the course is front loaded, and then the latter part of the course has our students working one-on-one with a child. So when I heard summer was going to be online, that was when I went, holy cow, what am I going to do? So, what I had been used to with graduate students, that was fine. But now I have undergraduate students who honestly, in terms of working with students and with the idea of using various assessments, have little to none background knowledge, background information. So I stayed up many nights trying to think about how am I going to do this. One, so that it's meaningful, and two, that it's still in terms of rigor and what the students are going to need to ultimately pass their certification exam, be on par with what would typically be done in a face-to-face class. And that caused me to have many sleepless nights. I looked at something that was online that was written by Stephen Merrill, and it deals with mindset for this moment. So I had to let go. I had to let go of what I had done in the past. And I couldn't keep saying, but we did this, we did that. And as a matter of fact, when we came, and I taught 2 classes a week synchronous. We were online together. And I stressed that unless that child lived in your home with you, if this was your child or someone living in your home, you would not work with a student. And so there were a lot of vignettes and case studies that I had to create to try to simulate what would typically happen in the face-to-face class session. Something else that, and Cherie, you alluded to this, and I almost was going to say, you know what, Cherie, you covered everything I wanted to say, but I decided not to take that route. Merrill also talked about trial and error, and you talked about it as well. And I will tell you, my summer 1 class does not look like my summer 2 class, because I did have to learn from that experience. I tried to give some flexibility with my students in summer 1, and I realized that's not going to work. I'm going to have to take a little more control and make it much more structured. So I did that in summer 2. The other thing that I did from summer 1 to summer 2, so in summer 1, I did put them in groups, and I used the group feature on WebEx, which, it's what we had, it's what I used. I felt like for whatever reason I couldn't use Zoom. I would have loved to have used Zoom, and I'm interested in hearing more from Chelsie about Teams, but I used the group on WebEx because I'm a teacher and I follow rules. You tell me to use WebEx, I'm going to use WebEx. And I had them meet, and they would collaborate on their lessons. But I didn't really know what was going on. There was really no way to monitor it. And so summer 2, not only did I put them in groups, but I had them record their sessions. So they had to go to WebEx. They included me on their meeting invite. They could determine when they were going to meet. And if I were available, sometimes I would just pop in. I would just pop in, see if there were any questions. And if they were fine, then I popped out of their session. But I could always go to the WebEx recording so that I could see what took place. And it was really a way of me in terms of what I could provide in feedback to the class as a whole based on what was going on within those groups. That's really what the purpose of the sessions were. But what I found that was also occurring in there was need for students to talk. And so, in class, when we have face-to-face, students get together earlier and they chat about what's going on. They stay afterwards and chat. And I saw some of those conversations taking place in their group settings. And it's a reminder that within all of this, our students need an opportunity to not only to talk to each other, but I found that my students talk to me even more so. So I started logging on WebEx like 5 to 10 minutes earlier. And that was when and I would tell them, it's not a private conversation. So if this is private, save it for office hours. We'll talk about it then. But a lot of them just wanted to talk, and they shared their concerns, and concerns not only for themselves and their family in terms of health, but concerns about being prepared. So you know, allowing some time before and after class, I found to be very effective. I like to think that I'm available for my students. I like to think that I've always had a very good rapport with my students. But honestly, I was surprised at how much more session 2 in terms of those relationships have built by just allowing time to be available to students. I do something else that I don't know if I should or I should not, but I did it anyway. I have told my students, I've given them my number, and I tell them, text me. If you have a question, if you have a concern, whatever it is, text me, and I will respond when I'm able to. And if need be, I'll call you and we'll talk about it, or we'll schedule a WebEx meeting. So I've used my phone for a lot of these conversations. But I found in doing that, I had to set parameters. And that was something I think Chelsie talked about. I had to tell them, no, I'm not available at 2 o'clock in the morning. You may be awake, but I am not. And honestly, I told them Sundays I was never available. Do not send me anything on Sunday because I am not going to respond. So I had to put parameters on when they could send me a text. And I also had to let them know that just because you text me does not mean you're going to get immediate response, just like with emails. So they needed to understand that there were parameters with that. And that actually has worked very well for me at this summer session too. So much so that I probably will teach this course in the fall. And knowing that we really don't know what's going to happen with schools. Honestly, I don't think schools, because my class, the fall class is field-based in that it's set at a school campus. Honestly, I don't think the school's going to allow my students on campus. And I don't know that I want to put my students in that situation. I think it's better to continue with the hybrid and do a face-to-face as well as online. But I think I'm just going to continue with having those forms of communication. And knowing that, sometimes they just need to talk, and for whatever reason, I may be the only one available, or I'm just a safe person that they can share with, and it's like, tell me, and really there's no judgment, and I delete your text as soon as I get it. And the other thing I tell them is, you have to say, this is so-and-so from read 3351, because I don't save your number. And no matter how long your text is, if there's not a name, my first response to you will be, who are you? And anyway, I think the other thing I have done for myself, and this is what I will close with, is realizing I had to take care of myself as well. Initially, I found myself sitting in this chair on my computer for long hours. I mean, I would be on it about 9 a.m. and it would be 7:30 in the evening. And I'd be like, holy cow, I didn't think I could sit that long. So I'm not going to say her name because she'll talk to me, but I ask her to set timers for me, and I get up and I go for a walk, I go water my plants, I do something for 30, 45 minutes, and I come back. But I think it's also remembering, not only are we here to help our students and to provide for them, but we've got to take care of ourselves. And in that sense, it's also remembering we're not alone. We have colleagues who are available. And so not to forget your tribe, and reach out and let them know, hey, I need help, because we certainly don't need to go through this process alone. And that's all I have. Thanks for listening.
Corinne, thank you. You and Cherie both brought up really good points about the importance of building community within our classes and with our students, with each other, but it's also very important for us as faculty to continue to share these ideas and to just have the community amongst ourselves, which is why, again, this is just the very first of several conversations that we have planned. So thank you for being a part of this. Jimena, are you able to join us? I think you called in. Let me see if I can unmute. I think this is you. I just unmuted you.
Okay. Hi, Kelly. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. I'm ready. Hi, guys. My name is Jimena Burnett, and I teach in the first year learning community program as a seminar instructor. So I'm seeing all incoming freshmen, and I've worked in a bunch of different learning communities, music, film and culture, nursing, sociology, political science, history, and I have had very few experiences teaching online. So the jump to online last spring was, yeah, really hectic for me. But I wanted to share this idea with you guys. I looked over the questions that everyone submitted, and it said, how do we do group work and activities in social distance settings? And I've been hanging out in the Pandemic Pedagogy Facebook group, and I found this document that was started by Dr. Jennifer Baumgartner, who's associate professor at LSU. And it's called Active Learning While Social Distancing. And the document is, like when I checked it this morning, it had over 100 educators on it. The little avatars were there. Basically, it's a table with 5 columns. And the first column is like your learning goal. Then they'll describe a face-to-face learning activity. And then they'll have 2 columns for the online equivalent, synchronous, and then another column for the online asynchronous version. And then they also have a column for doing that same activity in a physically distanced classroom. So I thought it was a really useful document, and we posted it in our seminar repository that we've been building this semester. And I'll be glad to share it with the CFE. So basically my feel is just use your resources the best you can to sort of navigate this territory. Another thing that I learned this summer from taking the ODELT online certification class was how I needed to really reorient myself to really thinking about how my learning management system, my Blackboard work is presenting itself to the students. I was in Blackboard as a student in the ODELT class, and yeah, I was emailing people and asking questions just like a freshman student would. So it gave me a better insight to what it is to be a student, and I really feel like I'm going to be using my student view in Blackboard a lot more just to get a sense of that. And then the last thing I was going to say was I've been reading this book this summer called Small Teaching, Everyday Lessons from the Science of Learning by James N. Lang. And it's a great book, and basically the whole idea is what are the small interventions that you can do in the class that don't take up a lot of time, don't take a lot of grading, but are sort of research-based and give you a lot of bang for the buck. And that has been another good source for my putting together my fall teaching. But that's all I've got.
Thank you, Jimena. I'm glad you could join us. So this wraps up the faculty portion of the presentations. Do any of our attendees have questions for our faculty panelists about the specific teaching strategies or any of the apps that they were using? I know that many of you have been asking and answering questions in the, let's see. We're talking about Microsoft Teams. The CFE will try to set something up with Ben Soto and Odell about Teams. I think that that would be an excellent workshop for us to do. Okay. Okay, so I see some questions coming in. Dr. Phillips, would you like to go ahead and do your presentation on the classroom logistics for face-to-face? And I can make you presenter. I'll move the ball over to you.
So let me start by saying to the panelists, thank you. Not only am I impressed, but I am inspired. As I'm listening to you and how you have made adjustments, I was like, yes, we have this. I mean, you know, COVID is more than a curveball, right? It is, but I have new confidence in the faculty and our ability to meet students' needs. So panelists, thank you. What I would say to everyone is that I know this is, there is no good word. I mean, extraordinary, whatever. There's no good word to sort of capture to this time. In addition to managing your own sort of thoughts and emotions, you're also engaged in managing your courses. And so for that, I am grateful. I know it's a lot of work and I don't take that for granted. And if I could, right, I would pay you more money, right? I'd give you fewer classes. I would do all of that. But I can't do that. And so on this day, I hope a thank you will suffice and we'll work on some things. I do have a PowerPoint slide presentation. There's a lot of content, right? So I know some people like take pictures. You can do that, but please know I'm going to post this. It will be posted with CFE and it will be also posted on the Academic Affairs website. So yeah, let me just get started because you will have questions undoubtedly. How about I share this screen? All righty. So some of this is not new, and there'll be some slides I just flipped through, but once again, know that this will be available at another time. Currently, our campus protocols include face coverings, right? There's a procedure that requires everyone on campus to use a face covering when they are in public space. When you're in your private office, you don't have to, but if you're in a situation where you may encounter someone else or our students may encounter someone else, we must wear face coverings. We are asking everyone to do a self-screening, right? So every morning, right, or whatever time you get up, right? Some of us are night people and we like to get up later in the day. You need to do the check. Do you have a sore throat? Do you have a headache? Do you have body aches? Do you feel like you may have a temperature, a fever? Take your temperature. This is students, faculty, and staff. Daily, you need to do a self-check in terms of your own status. And if you are not well, right, then you need to notify your department chair so that we can make arrangements. There is signage all over campus. We're continuing to add signage everywhere, all kinds of signage. So if there are places when you come to campus, if you think we can improve the signage, please let us know. I talked a little bit about face coverings. There were questions about what happens when you're wearing a face covering when you're teaching. Face shields, which are the clear plastic face coverings, they are allowed when you are lecturing, but you must maintain that 6 feet of physical distance, right? You must maintain that 6 feet of physical distance when you're wearing a face shield. I will tell you, I've had people tell me when they're wearing the face shield, you do have to get used to hearing your own voice get caught behind that shield, and projecting is still necessary. In certain learning environments, whether that's music instruction or in language learning classes, you may take off your face covering if you need to demonstrate something, but you need to be 6 feet apart and you need to make it a relatively short amount of time. That we are currently working through whether students with disabilities can wear the face shield and not a face covering. Every student who comes to your class should be wearing a face covering of some sort. And they should be wearing a cloth face covering unless you have gotten a notification from the disability office that student may show up with a face shield instead. So we are asking for face cloth mask with the exception of students who need an accommodation. Once again, we talked about when you're in your office, you don't have to do that. So the university does have a testing protocol. It begins next. I mean, we've done some pilot testing with student athletes and other folks that are on campus. Beginning on Monday the 10th, we will also have it available to faculty and staff, and then and other student priority groups. And then it will be fully implemented on the 17th. So we do have a testing protocol. We have a contact tracing protocol. And I'll talk to you a little bit more about contact tracing in just a minute, but I would ask you to allow the contact tracing process to work. We have implemented a protocol where the notification happens as it should, right? So when we are notified that a faculty, staff, or student has tested positive for COVID-19, we do have a process where we notify all of the individuals that have come into close contact, right? When you say close contact, that would be someone who has been within 6 feet of that person for more than 15 minutes of time, right? Because those are the CDC guidelines at that time. We do have a COVID-19 reporting. If you, and I'll talk more about that in just a sec, so I'm gonna keep going. So the contact tracing process, as I said, as faculty, I know when you may feel the need to immediately notify others if one of your students shows you that there's a positive test, but hold on for just a second, we're gonna get there. We are asking that you allow the process to work as a way to sort of manage people's anxiety, because everybody will not be within 6 feet of a positive person for 15 minutes of time. And so just as a way to continue moving forward as a community, we would like to inform those people that need to know, right? You as a faculty member should inform students that they should complete the TAM-UCC reporting form. It's on the bottom, it's a Qualtrics form actually. But you should tell your students first day of class, if you feel like you may have symptoms or you get a positive test, please fill out the form. As the faculty member, if a student tells you that they have tested positive, you can fill out the form, right? We need to encourage students to take that action. Sometimes maybe students don't feel well, or for some other reason they forget to complete the form. You can complete that form so that follow-up is done with that student. Contact tracing will allow us to follow up with every close contact, right? All right, so I have advocated for them. I'm pretty excited, right? Because when Clarinda advocates for something and she gets her way, I get excited. I have stressed that sometimes faculty members feel the need to say something, right? And they don't necessarily, they get anxious about whether the process is working and whether the people who are supposed to be checking their email and their phones are really doing that. And so what if you feel the need to communicate with your students in your class? This is an email I would suggest you send. So over the summer, there was a class that was meeting, and the student actually did a screenshot of his positive test. And he sent that screenshot to the faculty member and said, I've tested positive, I can't come back to class. And so in that situation, the faculty member just canceled the class for the rest of the semester, right? Said, so that's not what should have happened, because in this particular class, there was social distancing, there were face coverings. And so the class can continue to meet. So this statement is here. Like I said, I will make sure that it's available both through the CFE and on the Academic Affairs website. If you as a faculty member are not feeling well, or you have a positive test result, please contact your department chair. I am not expecting anybody to show up on campus if they are not feeling well, they have the symptoms, or they've tested positive. We need to work through this together. We have a responsibility not only for ourselves, but also for others in the community. And that's just the kind of place this is, right? We care about one another. And so I know sometimes faculty feel as if they must sort of fall on the sword, but I'm not asking you to do that. I'm not asking you to do that. If you are not well, stay home. Let your department chair know. If you can continue to teach remotely, right, while you're not feeling well, do that, right? But if you are so ill that you cannot continue teaching, we as a university will need to work those arrangements out, right? So if you are sick, whether you have symptoms or diagnosis, you can use the federal emergency sick leave. For other HR type questions, go to the HR website, call HR. I'm not an HR expert. This is just, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time here. These are sort of detailed, this is detailed information about instructional modalities. What I would stress is that if you are going to be teaching any content synchronously, so whether you're a blended class or an online class, it is very important for you to let students know that they are expected to show up in whatever the classroom environment is at the specified time, right? If you're doing asynchronous activities, less important, but students need to know if they cannot work at 1 o'clock on Mondays and Wednesdays, right? Because they're expected to show up in the WebEx classroom, they need to know that and set that time aside. This will be available. The one side, when people talk about face-to-face instruction is up to having everything. Well, let's flip it that other way. Where only 24% of the course content is online. So there is quite a bit of latitude in that, and that top to bottom. Look, if you have questions, let me know. I've actually heard faculty say that students are being charged distance ed fees for classes that have moved online or to a blended format. That is not accurate. If the course was already in a blended format or online, if that was already the plan and the faculty have gone through the ODELT processes to get that approved, then yes, there are fees. But for all the classes we transitioned to a blended or online format, there are no fees. So I just want to be clear about that. Classroom configuration, we have reduced classroom capacity to somewhere between 30 to 40%. So when you walk in your physical classrooms in the fall, they will look very different. It is also the case that, and I'll show a picture in just a minute, but there are sanitizing or disinfecting stations throughout buildings and in some of the very large lecture rooms. And you will see those so that we could do physical distancing, social distancing in our classrooms. We did install plexiglass in front of the rows of desks, and you can see those where students are supposed to sit. So there is 6 feet of distance side to side. The distance from front to back in terms of the rows is a little less than 6 feet, but the plexiglass and the wearing of the face coverings allows us to continue instruction in continuous rows. Oh, got a little carried away. Attendance, and we can talk more about attendance in a second. But we are requiring for all in-person class sessions that you take attendance. That is very important for contact tracing. We also need you to establish a seating chart. And yes, I know we like students to be able to move around, and we like students who one day they want to sit in the front of the class and the next day they want to sit in the back of the class, but we simply cannot allow that at this time. If we have to reach out to students because they were within 6 feet of a classmate, we need to be able to know which students to contact. That seating chart really only comes into play in the large lecture spaces or in lab settings where perhaps you have lab partners and you're sharing space, or you have some other kind of arrangement where people are within 6 feet of one another. Students will be absent. I think several people have made that comment. I think we should expect it. We should accept it because we don't want 6 students coming on campus or to class. So I would suggest that, in your course syllabus, you explain one that, and I have an example syllabus statement that you can use, or you can include something else. I think Cherie said included something, and Dr. Buck has about assignments. You should in syllabus say something about how absences will be managed. Several people have talked about offering remote access through Blackboard or saved recordings for students. Please do that. If a student is sick and you're in a classroom that has a camera or you can facilitate remote watching, please do so. Flexibility in accepting late assignments is encouraged within reason, right? And I think Cherie covered that already. So draft syllabus statements, these are on the Academic Affairs website already. And I think the first one has to do with impact on attendance, which is that first and foremost, we want everyone in our community to be well. And so if you are not well, you need to stay home, or at least stay away from everybody else, right? It also says this statement that you may borrow. It says that you must notify the professor ahead of time. You can't just not go to class and say, oh, I was feeling ill. If you're not feeling ill, you need to let faculty know ahead of time. There's also a statement about class recordings. For FERPA and other reasons, students need to know that they cannot share class recordings. All right, so just some quick general tips. That's the sanitation station. So students, I have a lot. So every member of the community, faculty, staff, and students they can pick up their individual spray bottle, it's a disinfectant bottle, and there are filling stations across campus. There's one in the UC, one in the library, and one in Dugan, I think. But you can, if you use it all, you can refill it. But this is your personal sized disinfectant spray. So whenever you go into space, right, and you're going to sit down somewhere, I encourage you to spray and wipe off, right? Students, like I said, students will also have these. If somebody forgets their personal size, then you can pull a towel down and put some sanitizer on it and wipe the space that way. As faculty, I encourage, don't wait until the first day of class to visit the class. Some of your classes are going to look very different. So visit your classroom spaces before the first day so that you have a sense of how you may need to be in that space differently. I encourage you as faculty to model protective, positive behaviors. Students, many of our students consider it a privilege to be in college, and so they're watching you. And if you come into your classroom, your physical classroom, and you're spraying and wiping down and you're wearing your face covering, students will, whatever that word is, mimic, for lack of a better word, will mimic you. They will do as you do. So they will take their cues from you. If you talk about how this is just horrible and nobody should be in class, in a physical class, they're going to say that too, right? So they're going to take their cues from you. So model positive behaviors. I would encourage you to dismiss by rows and to dismiss a few minutes early. I know there are questions about passing times between classes. If you're dismissing by rows in your class or by halves, however your class is designed, and you're in class, 3 to 5 minutes early, that will help in terms of congestion, right? When it comes to that, as long as people are moving and they're not in sustained conversations, we will be fine. You can teach an outdoor space. It's hot. Now I will tell you, if my professor said to me, we're gonna be outside, I would probably just, anyway, moving on. So so we do not have tents on campus because of the wind, right? And so I know there are universities that have put up tents, but our tents will not stay day to day because of the wind. I have talked to the athletic director, John Palumbo. If you would like to use, there's no shade, but if you would like to use the space at the baseball stadium where there are bleachers, or you'd like to use the soccer stadium, Mark Bowling in athletics will take your reservation, so you can use where there's where there's seating outside. By all means, you can use other space outside as well. Maybe that's a better alternative for October than August, but outdoor seating is available. If you want to use the back patio of outside the UC, you should make that reservation through the UC. I've been told that would also be available. You probably want to stay away from eating times since there's no inside dining options. I mean, we cannot sit inside the UC to eat. And so students may be going on the back patio to do so. So I would suggest staying away from popular lunch times or whatever. Centrally supported classrooms will have webcams and microphones. So if you're concerned about your voice being muffled with the mask or whatever, know that if you are in a college supported classroom, which many of you will be, you will need to work through your dean's office or get the go bag, the what's called mobile meeting go bag, which is sort of has the iPad in it with a microphone to use. That's the IT mobile meeting go bag. It's right on there. Moving on. Oh, they must want me to stop because my thing won't. Quickly, office hours. You may hold office hours by phone, WebEx, or in person. In person, as long as you're following the health and social distancing protocols, right? Know that we will still have advising. We're still doing tutoring help, and the library will also be open. Dining services are available, no seating, bus services, bookstore services. So your students will have access to all of that so that they can still get what they need to be successful in your class. Those are the dates. Move in 14th through the 17th. Classes begin on Wednesday, the 19th, and we have adjusted that we have adjusted the last day of class so that students may not have to come back after Thanksgiving. Some stuff, some guides, websites, resources. There it is. That's it. I'm done. Woo. Sorry, it took longer than I intended to.
Florinda, thank you. I have a couple of questions that have popped up in the chat box, and I'll relay them to you. The first one was, will it be mandatory for students and faculty to report positive COVID results to the university?
Will it? I'm sorry, because I'm trying to get you off my screen. Give me just a second.
Is it mandatory for students, faculty, staff to report if they are tested positive for COVID?
Is it mandatory for the faculty or staff member to report a student?
Or themselves?
Yes. So if you know, you must say something. Right? So if a student shares with you, or if a staff member shares with you that they have tested positive, then you should fill out the reporting form.
Okay.
All right, another one of the questions was, in a situation where someone is assigned in a 100% face-to-face class, but the faculty member or someone in their household are sent home for a 14-day quarantine period, will the faculty member be able to move their classes completely online during that quarantine period? And whom do we contact to get approval for a situation like that?
So if the faculty member is teaching 100% face-to-face, can you all hear me? Because my screen is just frozen.
We can hear you.
Okay, all right. I will ask, what can you see on your screen?
I don't see any content shared from your computer. I can see you just fine. Right now I'm looking at the Brady Bunch screen with about 50 people. So I can see you just fine.
Okay. It's just a little odd, you know, technology is wonderful when it works. So if you are teaching a face-to-face class and you must quarantine, you need to notify your department chair, whether you must quarantine or self-isolate, right? Quarantine is what you do if you think you have been exposed to someone that has COVID-19. That's you're quarantining, you're self-isolating if you have a positive test result. If in either of those situations, you would contact your department chair, and yes, you would, as long as you're able, right? As long as you're feeling physically able to continue teaching that class online remotely, you can do that for that 2-week period of time.
And so the takeaway is to contact your department chair if that situation comes up.
Right. We just want, yeah, I mean, we don't want anybody to say, oh, you know, Professor McClure didn't show up in class today, right? You want somebody to know why it is that you have switched to remote learning.
And in a similar circumstance, if a faculty member becomes has a minor illness, so if it's allergy related and they're unable to teach in person and they need to provide remote instruction for their students, should they require their students to still attend the in-person class and receive instruction from their devices, or will the students also be allowed to attend remotely to receive instruction?
So if the faculty member is teaching from home because they are quarantining, I'll just use that, students do not have to show up to the physical classroom.
Okay.
I mean, they can if there's something about that classroom space, but then there's no one there to sort of ensure that students are sitting in the right seats behind the plexiglass. Or what I would just say, if the faculty member is teaching from home, then students are not expected to go to the classroom, but they can if they need Wi-Fi connection or something like that.
Thank you. I'm looking through the comments. Are there any other questions right now for Clorinda or any of our other panelists?
I saw one in there, and I don't know if I missed the answer to it or not, but I think it's important, is will there be access? Can we access the classrooms beforehand? Like, will they be unlocked? Because a lot of times I've gone to the classroom beforehand and it's just to see, and it's, you know, pre-COVID even, and they're locked to where we can't kind of see them. So how is that going to be managed?
All right, I can put that, I can put the request in that beginning Monday, that at least between 8 and 5, because I don't know what happens after 5. If you need in a classroom after 5, let's work that out. But I will make the request that beginning next Monday, that all classrooms be available from 8 to 5.
Corinne, is that Monday, August 10th?
Yes. Yes.
Thank you. Does anyone else have any other questions?
Heather, the other thing about going to your classroom early is that if you're not seeing any cleaning supplies nearby, or you're not seeing sort of the other things that you think should be in place, please, you call Sandra, right? Or email Sandra.Martinez so that we can get that fixed, right? So that we can get that addressed. You can also contact your department chair or dean's office, but whatever's, or maybe you can do both.
Another question that has just come up is who is in charge of cleaning the rooms in between lectures?
So the classroom spaces are going to be disinfected twice a day, depending on sort of when there is a break. And that's why we are emphasizing that, especially you need to clean your own space, right? So when you walk into the classroom, you want to make sure that that space has been cleaned off. So you use your disinfectant or whatever. I mean, if you carry around wipes, use the wipes. If you can get them, I still can't find them. But yeah, so you want to clean your own space. When students come in the room and they see you cleaning your space, they will clean their own space. It may be clean. I mean, it may be cleaned before you get in, but for your own sense of safety, clean your own space.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so it looks like we have just a couple of minutes left. I do want to thank everyone again, not just our panelists, but also everyone who has attended today to participate in this obviously very important and ongoing conversation about how we can make adjustments to our teaching styles and logistics in general to keep ourselves and our students and each other safe. Again, I want to thank everyone. And Clorinda, I'm going to turn it over to you to wrap up for the last couple of minutes.
Okay, there were other questions that came in about sort of what can faculty and staff do to, in some ways, protect vulnerable family members, or what are the metrics that we're using to monitor sort of what level of operation we should have. All of that I will address tomorrow in the academic affairs meeting. I wanted this to be focused on sort of engaging students in the classroom and beyond. As I said it before, I appreciate everyone being here. It shows that you are committed, which I didn't have any doubt about. And so many of you have said it much more eloquently than what I could. Our students need you. That's the bottom line. Our students need you, and I know these are tough times, but I'm thankful that you are here so that students can continue making progress. So thank you. That's it.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone, again. Have a great day and be on the lookout for more information from our office. And thank you again to our panelists. Now take care.